it takes 14 clubs to vote in favour of something for it to go through. So even though Manchester United, Manchester City, Chelsea, Liverpool and are amongst the biggest clubs in the world, they can't dictate to the other clubs what they want to do, how the competition is organised, or indeed how cash is distributed across the league. So that means they have to bring the smaller teams on board to any changes they want to make. In an ideal world, the likes of Manchester United and Liverpool would say they deserve more of the television money because they attract not only the biggest audiences in England, but also around the world. Now in England, they do command more of the cash from their games because the money is split based on how many times you appear on television. But around the world, the international money that the Premier League makes, which is around £3 billion over 3 years at the moment, it's split equally amongst the teams. Well, the reason why the Premier League likes the status quo in terms of the cash being distributed equally from international rights is because it helps to maintain the competitive balance. It means that the Premier League is one of the most competitive leagues in the world throughout the competition, and you have these exciting games where on the first day of the season Burnley can beat Chelsea, you have Stoke beating Arsenal just in the opening weeks of the season, so you get these shocks across the competition, which helps to stimulate interest across the world. Now the clubs that are smaller in terms of their international appeal do not want to give ground easily in terms of losing out on potentially many millions in television revenue. So that's why you've seen the Premier League try to compromise, try to say, let's just maybe set aside 35% of the international cash and split that based on where you finish in the competition. So if you are Chelsea and you win the league, you will get more than Sunderland, who finished bottom last season, because some of the bigger clubs would say it's already quite lucrative for smaller teams, because last season Chelsea as champions got around £150 million in total in prize money and television cash, and Sunderland still got nearly £100 million. So that is significantly more than many clubs around the world. In fact, the top 20 Premier League clubs rank amongst the top 40 or so clubs around the world in terms of revenue, because they do have the advantages of this television cash. And the reason why all this is being discussed now is because it's now time for the Premier League to try to sell its television rights for 2019 to 2022. So before they go to market with these rights, they want to get the rules in place, the distribution in place for how this cash is going to be distributed amongst the clubs. And at the moment, around £8 billion is generated by the Premier League over 3 years for domestic and foreign rights, and surely this is going to hit at least £10 million by the time they complete the deals for the next 3-year rights cycle. Well, this meeting is a prime example of where power is taken away from the big clubs. Whatever Chelsea want to do, whatever Liverpool want to do, they can't get anything through without bringing the smaller teams on board. They need these teams to back their proposals. So it's going to be potentially quite frantic negotiations leading up to this meeting, and potentially yet even more compromises to try to bring these smaller teams on board to their way of thinking. And it could well be that a smaller percentage of the international cash is ultimately distributed based on your position, rather than the 35% which is currently on the table at the moment as this potential compromise solution. But the critics of this would say that once you start to distribute some of this international money based on where you finish in the league, it's a slippery slope, and eventually you could get far more of it distributed to the bigger clubs, because this all starts from the fact that when the Premier League began in 1992, the international rights weren't worth that much. So actually, when the clubs originally just agreed at the start of the competition to share it all equally, it was a very insignificant amount of money. It's only as the league has grown in popularity that now these rights are worth so much around the world.